Today, Yawm al-Jum'ah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, the 18th of Shawwal, 1424 Hijri, the 12th of December, 2003. We are blessed once again to come in the house of Allah Ta'ala and study the monumental work of Al-Aqidah Wasittiyah by Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, explained by the Shaykh Abu Abdullah Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymin rahimahullah. Where we left off was the 6 preliminary issues that he wanted us to understand. 6 preliminary matters that the Shaykh wanted us to understand. To make this matter easier for those who were at the last lecture, we said, what did you learn basically from the last lecture? We went in a lot of detail regarding the issue of Allah Ta'ala's qualities versus the issue of the qualities of the creatures. We went into a lot of detail regarding this issue. So I'm asking bi'idhnillahi ta'ala for someone to, and it can be done collectively, to give a synopsis or a summary of what we took Wednesday night. The brother is saying that we cannot attribute to Allah Ta'ala a quality, affirm for him a quality that he has not affirmed for himself in the book or the sunnah, or the Prophet ﷺ has not affirmed for him the sunnah, nor can we deny from Allah Ta'ala a quality that he has not denied himself in kitab, or the Prophet ﷺ has not denied from Allah in the sunnah. The wording that was used was that we don't go outside of Quran and Sunnah regarding the qualities of Allah Ta'ala. We had the statement of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, La natajawuz. Don't go outside of, don't go beyond Quran and Sunnah. This was one of the principles we took, no doubt. Ahsanta. Who's next? Fadl ya Ahmad. He's correct. That was the last matter we took, and we are currently, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, tonight involved in explaining it further, that in the matters of affirming or denying qualities of Allah Ta'ala, the intelligence or the intellect or the reasoning has no place in it. The reasoning has no place in it. But it centers around the nusus. It centers around the text from Quran or from Sunnah. This is what we'll be centering around tonight, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and this is correct. Ahsanta. Man ba'd. I mean, we spent like 45 minutes on this issue. And we started by answering questions that people had. Come back to you, and we'll let someone else also, inshallah. We'll come back to you. Na'am, Abu Damir. Jayyid. He said, and I'm going to let you complete, he said that the descriptions of Allah Ta'ala and the descriptions of the creatures, regarding the description of Allah Ta'ala and the description of the creatures, that when a sifa or quality is referred to Allah Ta'ala, it is specific of Allah Ta'ala. And when it refers to the creatures, it is what? Specific of the creatures. Give an example. Yeah. No. He gave an example that when you speak about the quality of the hands of Allah Ta'ala, then you should understand the hands of Allah Ta'ala is not like the hands of His creatures. And it cannot be imagined. Why it can't be imagined? Because it's a matter of the what? The unseen, the ghaib, which is another principle we took. And that the knowledge, but when we come to the creatures, the quality of the hands of the creatures is known, ma'aruf, and can be seen, and it's on the level of the creatures. We gave examples of this dealing with the sifat ma'nawiyya, or the sifat that have that we can understand from a meaning standpoint, like wisdom and living. You have something along that line? Fadl. No. 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 Ahsanta. And we gave an example that if you were to take a sifa, a quality like of knowledge, and you were to place the word knowledge in the center, and you would put the name Allah Ta'ala to the right of it, and you would put the name of Zayd, for instance, to the left of it, and that if you were to say the knowledge of Allah, you know in your mind, in your heart, that you meant something great, and something that is beyond description almost, something that's wide and vast and expansive. Whereas when you say knowledge of Zayd, that you were talking about the knowledge of creatures. He gave an example here that Zayd came into the world 9 months, if not earlier, not knowing anything. So he did not have any knowledge. Then he had to learn knowledge. And then he got to such a point of old age that he what? Forgot his knowledge. Whereas Allah Ta'ala always knew and will always know, has always known and will always know. And there's never been a time where Allah Ta'ala has been ignorant. Allah has full knowledge of everything and will always have full knowledge of everything, for this is the quality of Allah Ta'ala. You see the distinction here when you connect the name to Allah, the particular quality to Allah, what you understand, as well as to whether when you connect it to the creatures, what you understand. You can do the same with life. The quality of al-hayya. Al-hayy al-qayyum, we say, right? The living. All living. It's always lived, Allah Ta'ala. You put Zayd. Zayd is living. But there was a time when Zayd didn't exist. And there's a time when Zayd would die. Whereas Allah Ta'ala is alive. And has always been alive. And will always be alive. And death is a creature that He created. See the difference between the two? There's no comparison. And he made a very important point that the constitution of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the constitution of those on the Minhaj al-Salaf Salih in this area, is that ayah, laysa kamithlihi shay, wa huwa as-sami' al-basir. There's nothing like Him, and He is what? All hearing, all seeing. First, Allah Ta'ala denies the fact that there's anything like Him, in any shape, fashion, or form. Whatever you can imagine, whatever you've seen, whatever you can think of, is not like Allah Ta'ala. Whatever you think of, whatever you imagine, whatever you have seen is creation. And Allah Ta'ala is al-Khaliq, the creator. And the creator is not like the creatures. And the creatures are not like the creator. Clear? Wadah? And there was a very important point regarding this issue of tashbih. And we took liberty with it a little bit to go into the fact that a lot of times people walk around with these concepts because of their Christian background or their Nation of Islam background. You know, those type of concepts help one to what? Fall into what? Tashbih. Making Allah Ta'ala similar to His creatures, which is what? Kufr. It is kufr to believe that Allah Ta'ala is like His creatures. So if you try to imagine Allah Ta'ala, and by the way, what was the ruling on trying to imagine Allah? It's haram. It's forbidden. For Allah Ta'ala says, وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِهِ عِلْمًا. You will not be able to encompass Him with your knowledge, so don't even try.
Don't try to imagine Allah Ta'ala, for whatever you would imagine would be creation, and therefore you will be falling once again into tashbih, making Allah similar to His creatures. But the ma'ani, or the meanings of the qualities, are known, and when they are connected to Allah Ta'ala, they are on the highest level in a manner that befits His majesty. And when they are connected to the creatures, they are on the low human level of the creatures, and there's nothing between them that is shared except the name. Like one of the Sahaba said, there's nothing in Jannah that is on earth except the name. The milk of Jannah, like the milk of earth, got an expiration date. Better get to that milk before the expiration date, or it's going to spoil. The milk of Jannah will never spoil. And like this. So this is something that we must understand. Watch out for tashbih, for thinking in your mind that Allah is like His creatures. That's kufr, akhi. Akhi, إذا فعلت ذاك, if you did that, وقعت في كفر. You have fallen into disbelief. You are now in the belief of the Muslims. You are now in the belief of the Muslims if you believe that Allah Ta'ala is like His creatures. You're now in the belief of the Muslims. It's when you open the book of Allah Ta'ala and Allah Ta'ala mentions a hand, or mention hands, and mention face, and mention eyes. Or in the Sunnah where Allah mentions feet, and Allah mentions speech, and so on and so forth. You're now in the belief of the Muslims if you think in any way that refers to the creatures, or similar to something you've seen, or similar to something you've experienced, or similar to something you thought of, or similar to something you imagined. It's kufr, akhi. Making comparison between Allah Ta'ala, making similarities between Allah Ta'ala and His creatures is kufr. Understand this fact. Then move on to understand that whatever Allah Ta'ala said about Himself is the truth. Whatever Allah Ta'ala said about Himself is the truth. And does not require anyone to come later on and say He didn't mean this, but He meant that. He didn't mean hand, but He meant power. He didn't mean this, but He meant mercy. No one has the right to do that. Now you've fallen into trespassing upon the sovereignty of Allah. Now you're messing with the wrong one to mess with. Now you're going to destroy yourself. You're going to come to the book of Allah, and you're going to pick and take out what you want to take and put what you want to put. You're going to actually have the audacity to take the qualities of Allah Ta'ala, which are part of the ghaib, the unseen, because Allah is unseen, and connect to Him that which you intend to connect, as if you were more knowledgeable. This is why when the Salaf brought these statements about Allah Ta'ala and His attributes, they said the ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah, أَأَنْتُمْ أَعْلَمْ أَمِ اللَّهِ, do you know better or Allah? Do you have more knowledge about this or Allah? Of course the answer, without any doubt or hesitation, is that Allah Ta'ala knows. He knows whether or not He has eyes. If He didn't have them, He would not have mentioned them. He knows subhanahu wa ta'ala already has hands. If He didn't have them, He wouldn't have mentioned them. And He knew that there will be those individuals who have come from sick beliefs and deviated beliefs, and who shaitan has tricked, and who cannot control their thought patterns, if you will. Cannot put in control, do not understand the greatness of Allah Ta'ala, the majesty of Allah Ta'ala, who will assume that Allah Ta'ala is like His creatures, so He knocked that out with various ayat, and we mentioned those ayat. Laysa kamithlihi shay. Well, it's nothing like Him. فَلَا تَضْرِبُوا لِلَّهِ الْأَمْثَالِ. Don't you make for Allah any similarities. In other words, don't you think in your mind that Allah's hands is like our hands, His face is like our face, His eyes are like our eyes. He just told you not to. فَلَا تَضْرِبُوا لِلَّهِ الْأَمْثَالِ. This is a forbiddance. Don't do it. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. Everybody recites that. Everybody recites that, but do you appreciate the full import of that ayah, that there's nothing like Him? No kufu. Kufu is an equal. Kufu is someone similar to that, to Allah Ta'ala. You say it every day in this ayah or the surah. لم يكن له كفوا أحد. No one, alayhi salam, is similar to Allah tabarak ta'ala. Nothing is similar to Allah tabarak ta'ala. Nothing that you've seen, nothing that you've experienced, nothing that you can imagine is similar to Allah tabarak ta'ala. And if you try to imagine, and if you try to compare what you have seen, him to what you have seen, or try to compare him to that which you've experienced, then you have fallen to tashbih, making him similar to his creatures, and you have fallen to kufr. Kufr. This is a matter that must be stressed, particularly upon to those who have come from a Christian background, or a background where they were comparing men and saying that they were gods, and saying that gods were men, making a plurality of gods, and then making the God similar to the man and the man similar to the God. This is something that has to be wiped away from the hearts of those who went through that fitnah, went through that trial, went through that tribulation. They have to exert more effort to understand these ayat in its pristine, clear, beautiful, unadulterated way that the Salaf understood it. That the Salaf understood it. Now, there was another principle we took. That the ayat that we take regarding Allah Ta'ala, we what? We take them according to their apparent meaning. Pass them on. Let them go upon their apparent meaning. And there's no fear in doing that. Since we know whatever verse we come across regarding Allah, or whatever hadith we come across in the sunnah regarding Allah, it's not like his creatures. There's no fear that he's like his creatures, subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no fear of falling to that. We can't deny it because Allah has stated it. We can't ask how for something that we cannot realize the reality of. So we are to believe in it on its apparent meaning, as it appears in the language, as it is understood, while avoiding making comparisons between Allah Ta'ala and his creatures, or asking how, or rejecting it, or distorting it, or coming with our own opinion. No, move it on as it came. Now, before we go into the actual lecture tonight, there's still the question that the sister asked. She said, I understand that it was not on page 76 as she had thought, but it was on other pages. And I take it that actually means I looked through the book, which is a translation, Shar, Aqidah, Wasittiyah. And it's on page 78 and 79. It mentions the hands of Allah Ta'ala. The hadith reported Abdullah bin Amr radiyallahu anhu, that Allah created three things with his own hands. He created Adam with his own hands. He wrote the Torah with his own hands, and planted the gardens of Eden with his hands. No. Al-Muhim, she goes on to ask, were these the words after he mentioned some other verses about hands and palms and fingers, and Allah would take this part of the earth on a finger and that, and the seven heavens on a finger, or the seven earths on a finger? The hadith that we will, inshallah, in the future bring. Ala kulli halin, the point of the matter is, she was asking, was these the words of Ibn Taymiyyah? Well, let's read what he says. He said, how can hand be interpreted to mean power when the text proves mentioning a palm, fingers, right, left, closing, opening, etc., which can only happen in the case of a real hand? Which can happen only in the case of a real hand. What did he say? When the text proves. So there's a text. There's a nas. There's a text from Quran or a text from Hadith that he got this from. So no, it is not the words of Ibn Taymiyyah. It is not the words of Ibn Taymiyyah. And we should think highly of our scholars also. That if Ibn Taymiyyah is going to say something about Allah, he's going to say it based upon evidence of Quran and Sunnah. Now, so now we get into what we have tonight, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. These matters that we've understood, we'll read the principles again. The first principle he brought, that from belief in Allah is to believe in what Allah has described himself with. And what the Prophet ﷺ has described Allah with in the Sunnah that's coming. What we're talking about now is to believe in what Allah has described himself with, how Allah has described himself. This is part of our belief in Allah. You cannot get away from it. Your belief in Allah Ta'ala will not be correct until you believe in Allah Ta'ala as he has described himself in the book. As he has described himself in the Quran. If you don't believe in that, then you have not believed in Allah properly. Next principle we took, that the qualities of Allah Ta'ala are from the matters of the unseen. And it's obligatory upon a person regarding matters of the unseen that they believe in them in the manner that they came. That they believe in them in the way that it was conveyed. That they believe in these qualities in the way that they were relayed. Not going to anything except the nusus, the text of Quran and Sunnah. Not going to anything except Quran and Sunnah. قال Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, Imam Ahmad says, do not describe Allah except with what he has described himself with, or how the Prophet Islam has described them. Do not go outside of Quran and Hadith. The next principle he brought was the third one, and that was, we do not describe Allah Ta'ala with something that he did not describe himself with. This is different than the other one. One is we only describe Allah Ta'ala as he has described himself. This one says, and we do not describe Allah Ta'ala with something he did not describe himself with. Right? So therefore we couldn't, for instance, we made an example of the nostrils that War of D and someone said also Sirat wa Hajj and others have mentioned these nostrils, that we don't describe Allah Ta'ala with this. Because he did not describe himself with that. Right? We're not in fact going to say, no, it's not the case whatsoever. We would say we're not allowed to describe Allah Ta'ala with that because he has not described himself with it. We're not going to deny something that Allah Ta'ala has not denied, nor we're going to affirm something that Allah Ta'ala has not affirmed. We will simply say we will not describe Allah Ta'ala with something he has not described himself with. You see the position of an abd, of a servant, and his respect, and his love, and his honor, and his realization of the greatness of Allah Ta'ala, that he doesn't usurp, he doesn't trespass upon the sovereignty of Allah Ta'ala, but he stays within the limits. He stays within the usul, the principles. He stays within the dawabit. He stays within the qawa'id. La tajawaz. You don't go further than that. He's not going to affirm something for Allah that Allah Ta'ala did not affirm for himself. He's not going to deny something from Allah that Allah Ta'ala did not deny of himself. No, we took this. Fourth matter we took of the preliminary principles he wants us to understand is that ijra' al-nusus, to take the text and let them pass, let them go. Al-warida, that I mentioned in Kitab al-Sunnah, ala dhahiriha, upon its apparent meaning. Don't go beyond that. Don't try to get heavy. Go beyond that. Well, I think it means this, or the philosopher said this, and the Greek philosopher said that, and the Hindu philosopher said this, and everybody has this opinion, and this type of thing. Don't go beyond the limit. Take it up on the zahir, knowing full well that the zahir, since it is the apparent, since it is connected to Allah Ta'ala, is specific of Allah Ta'ala, and it is a manner that befits His majesty and His greatness, subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to be compared to that which the creatures might have by the same name, but they don't have by the same reality. Jayyid, I think this is wadah. I think you're saying to yourself, oh man, that's Aqidah sahlun jiddan. Nothing wrong with this Aqidah. This Aqidah is all right. So why are they putting obstacles in front of this Aqidah? This Aqidah mixed with the fitrah. This Aqidah is smooth and goes palatable to the taste. You know what I'm saying? This Aqidah is all right. Right? Very easy to understand. Naam. The fifth one we took is that what Ibn Taymiyyah means when he says, from Iman and Allah to believe in how Allah, or what Allah has described himself in the book, and what the Prophet ﷺ describes in the Sunnah, it includes everything regarding Allah Ta'ala, from the qualities of His essence, His self, and we gave examples of that, to the qualities of fi'liyah or khabariyah, those actions, like Him descending, it's an action. Him speaking, it's an action, right? Him coming, maji, coming on Day of Judgment, it's an action, right? The maji of Allah, وَجَاءَ رَبُّكَ, your Lord will come with angels, ranks upon ranks, that's an action. He includes all of this. He's talking about however Allah is described, brother, in the Quran. Whatever Allah is described within the Quran. And whatever the Prophet Islam, however the Prophet Islam has described Allah in this authentic Sunnah, this is what we have to believe in. This is what Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah means. This is from Iman Billah. And those who don't believe in it properly, or reject it or deny it or believe in it improperly, are not upon the correct belief. Are not upon the correct belief. They're between an individual who has an incorrect belief and has an excuse of ignorance or ulama usul or some other reason that he has not been kicked out of the millah, or someone who the evidence has been established against him, and in fact he has reverted from Islam, as in fact been kicked out the millah. Like Salaf used to say regarding the Jahmiyyah and others. This is the Aqidah that you hear so many brothers say, man, Aqidah. The Aqidah Sahiha, man. What about your Aqidah, akhi? How's your Aqidah? Get your Aqidah together. Study Aqidah. Teach Aqidah. Give da'wah to Aqidah. What about Aqidah? Man, y'all always stressing Aqidah. Well, this is the Aqidah. Na'am. And number 6 is what we're taking tonight, basically, that we mentioned. And al-aql, the intellect or reasoning, la madkhal lahu fi bab al-asma wa sifat, has no entrance or has nothing to do with the matter of the names and qualities of Allah. Because affirming something for Allah of names and qualities, or denying something from Allah of names and qualities, depends upon what? As-sam'. What's this? As-sam'? Revelation. Revelation. This is a term for revelation it is a terminology that they use for revelation. So it depends on as-sam'. Depends on Quran and Sunnah. No intellect is in it whatsoever. We don't judge Allah Ta'ala, rule upon Allah out of our minds. Abadan, never. No. Now this is where we left off, and we'll begin today with what the Sheikh says here. Because I think we talked about the Ash'ariyah was the last thing we mentioned. He said, خلاف الأشعرية والمعتزلة والجهمية. I promised a printout with this, and I said to myself, what am I doing? Print out what? Almost every book that is there, that has been translated from most of the books of the Salaf that we have, has a glossary in the back that has this there. And almost every website, Salafi website in English, if you go to the section on groups, has it there. So, upon you is to show some type of initiative. If you don't understand some of this, then go back to that. Alright? In short, Al-Ash'ariyah are the followers of Abu Hassan Al-Ash'ari, rahimahullah, who went through 3 different levels in his belief. And those who connect themselves to him really should be called the Kullabiyah, because they follow a man by the name of Kullab. His basic principle was that he approved some of the qualities of Allah and denied others. He approved 7 main qualities of Allah and he rejected what? All the rest, or interpreted the rest, or whatever he wanted to do with them, right? So that was like in his, from the first to the second move. In other words, it wasn't the end of his life. The end of his life, he came to the Aqidah of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the Aqidah of Salaf al-Salih. And then he wrote such works like Al-Ibana, and his book Maqalat al-Islamiyyin, and like these type of books dealing with the Aqidah, saying that he was on Aqidah of the Imam of Ahl Sunnah. Who is it? Ahmad bin Hanbal. Yeah, I thought you were going to say somebody else. Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah. No, I knew you would only say that. Jayyid, that's Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari. Otherwise, the man left this thing, but they still follow him on it. On something that he had left. Something that he said is wrong. And that happens a lot throughout history. That the leader of something will admit he's wrong and is incorrect. Y'all need to stop that. Y'all can quit that now. That's out. You know, that's not right. And they will continue to do that. Saying, well, this is what we came in contact with. We're going to stay on it. You lost your mind, we ain't lost ours. Type mentality. So they kept on that battle. Was he came, mashallah, tabarak ta'ala, mashallah, tabarakallah, he came to the haqq. So those who follow him today and have the audacity to say we're Ash'aris and not Ash'aris. Well, Hassan Ash'ari is innocent from this belief. Well, Hassan Ash'ari has nothing to do with this belief. Well, Hassan Ash'ari wrote books against this belief. Abu Hassan Ash'ari responded and refuted this belief. So how are you going to still connect it to him and talk about your Ash'aris? Why is it as bad as the Christians saying they're Christians when Christ had nothing to do with it? The Masihiyyah saying they follow the Messiah when the Messiah didn't have nothing to do with it. Huh? Like this. Innocent of that madness. Al-Mu'tazilah are another group of Ahl al-Bid'ah who were the followers of a man named Wasit ibn Atha. This individual used to sit in the circles of the Imam of Ahl Sunnah at that time, which was Hassan al-Basri, rahimahullah. Questioner came to Hassan al-Basri asking him about the position of someone who dies while committing a major sin. Where is he at? And is he a kafir or he's a believer? And where's his final destination? Hassan al-Basri, rahimahullah, as most of the Salaf, when the questions come to them, was given to some thought. Before he could answer the question, this fool raises his head. And as I said, he's between two places. He's in manzala bayna manzalatayn. He's in one place between two places. He's a believer. He's not a believer, nor a kafir, but he's forever in the hellfire. It's foolishness. So Hassan al-Basri corrected him on this matter. He got up angry and went to the corner of the masjid and started his own circle. He's sheikh. So he said, "I'tazala anni, i'tazala anna, i'tazala." He removed himself from us. That's where the title comes, Mu'tazila. Al-Jahmiyyah are the followers of Jahm bin Safwan, that Khabith, who got his belief from Ja'd ibn Dirham, who got his belief from a Yahudi. A Yahudi. Connected to the Yahudi who did sorcery upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Shuf as-silsilah. Look at the series, how it went. The one who did sorcery upon the Prophet Islam held a belief. This man took that belief from him, gave it to Ja'd ibn Dirham, who gave it to Jahm bin Safwan. Hakada. And it was the Aqidah al-Ta'til, denying the names and qualities of Allah. Denying the names and qualities of Allah. Maybe at this time it would be good Who? The Aqidah Mu'tazila is what we described also. It's Ta'til also, but they play games. They play games. At this time, if you recall, we said that there was some kalam in the beginning of the book dealing with the matter of asma wa sifat. And we left it at that time saying that we will get into it or go back to it later. So in keeping with that promise, we start now, inshallah ta'ala, for it's only 2 or so pages, to mention what we had left from the explanation of the Sheikh regarding this issue. I think it was 2 brothers over here who said, wait a minute, you missed this. I said, no, we'll get back to it, inshallah ta'ala. So this is a going back to it, now that we have some basics, some fundamentals, some principles to understand this issue with. After the Sheikh, if you recall, gave every bit that came. The bit of Qadriya, the bit of Irja, the bit of this, the bit of that. Then came these Qawm al-Atqiyah, these so-called intelligent people. Those who say that their intellect or the reasoning is to be taken over what? The revelation. The reasoning is to be taken over the revelation. Al-aql muqaddam al-wahyi. The intelligence is over the revelation. Foolishness, right? Foolishness. فَقَالَوْ قَوْلًا بَيْنَ قَوْلَيْنِ. And he said that they are in two positions. He's not a kafir like the Khawarij said, nor he's a believer like the Murji'ah said. But he's in manzala bayna manzalatayn. He said like a man who traveled from one city to the other. And in the middle of his traveling, he was between these two cities. He wasn't in the city that he was traveling to, nor was he in the city that he was traveling from. Manzala bayna manzalatayn. This is regarding their life in this world. He's not kafir, brother. He's not Muslim, brother. Yarhamakallah. Amma fil akhirah, in the hereafter, they believe that he was forever in the hellfire. So in reality, they agree with the Khawarij. It's another issue. Known as you know, the position of the Muslim is what? That we do not declare kufr, disbelievers, those who commit a sin, as long as they do not what? Make it something lawful in their hearts. And we believe that Allah Ta'ala will bring the muwahid out of the hellfire. No matter what occurs or happens to that muwahid, the believer in the tawheed, no matter what occurs, however long he stays in the hellfire, however many sins he has committed, he will come out of the hellfire one day. And we believe in the shafa'ah, the intercession of the Prophet ﷺ for those who commit the kiba'ir, the major sins. So this is our position, the position that is correct, the position that is sound, the position that is upon that which Quran and Sunnah is based. So bid'ah came, bid'ah innovations. Then came the bid'ah mughlama, the dark bid'ah. The bid'ah the Jahmiyyah, the bid'ah of Jahm bin Safwan and his followers. And they have been called al-Jahmiyyah. They brought this innovation. It is the first time that people started talking about who? Allah Ta'ala. All the talk before that was regarding the creatures. His actions, part of Iman, and this type of thing. Irja. But now you are talking about the person of Allah Ta'ala. The audacity. The foolishness. Mas'alat al-asma'. Before that they were talking about names, whether you can call this person a kafir or a believer if he commits sins. Ahkam, whether he's mu'min or kafir or fasik, or whatever the case. But now they come to talk about Allah. So this is the greatest of what? Innovations. Undur kayfa tadarrajat bid'ah. Look how bid'ah came in the beginning of Islam. Until bid'ah after bid'ah, until they reached Allah Ta'ala. Until they started to talk about the Khaliq, the Creator Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Made the Creator in a position of the creatures. يَقُولُونَ كَمَا شَاءُوا, saying about Allah what they wanted to say. فَيَقُولُونَ, they say, based upon their intelligence, because they're so intelligent. They don't need Quran. They don't need Sunnah. They're so intelligent. هَذَا ثَابِتْ لِلَّهِ. This is a quality of Allah. هَذَا غَيْرَ ثَابِتْ. This is not a quality. From where? From their what? Their intellect. هَذَا يَقْبَلُ الْعَقْلِ. This, the mind can accept this. This is something the mind can deal with. And yet, Allah be that Allah has this quality. I can describe Allah with that. This is something my mind can accept. Come across another quality. This is something my mind cannot accept. So this is a bit of Jahmiyyah or Mu'tazila. So they split regarding the names of Allah and His qualities into many groups. To many groups. And we say to those who don't know the reality, and we say to those who don't read history, nor do they pay attention to what's going on around them, that these beliefs that we are talking about are not dead and gone. Like some people say, why are you talking about the Shar and the Jahmiyyah and the Mu'tazila and the Khawarij and the Murji'ah and the Karamiyyah and the Karamata, and like this. Why are you talking about these groups and they're dead and buried and so on and so forth? Akhi, what world are you living in? They still have their du'at, those who call to this. They still come out with new books, new cassette tapes with this madness upon it. It has not gone anywhere, even though it's just, it is, how can you say, hidden sometimes by the new terminology they may use, but a rose by any other name is still a rose. And a basal, you know what a basal is? Basal is an onion. Basal by any other name, still an onion, right? Hakada. Some of them said it's not permissible ever to describe Allah that He exists. It's not permissible ever to describe Allah that He exists. Can't say Allah exists. Why? They say because, can't say exists, nor can you say that He doesn't exist. Can't say exists, or can you say He doesn't exist. Huh? Why? Because if you describe Him that He exists, then you made Him similar to those that exist. And if you describe Him that He don't exist, then you made Him similar to those that don't exist. You see, the problem is that whenever they came to inquire of Allah, rather than understanding the majesty of Allah and the greatness of Allah, and that Allah Ta'ala is beyond and above His creatures, that there's no comparison between Allah Ta'ala and His creatures, they couldn't fathom that. They couldn't understand that. Their minds couldn't understand the greatness of Allah Ta'ala, and that He Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is nothing and no one comparable to Him. So here they come with this madness. So therefore we have to deny His existence, and we have to deny His non-existence. The Shaykh has a nice response to this. What you have come with is making Allah similar to that which is impossible. Mustahilat. That which is impossible. Run away from that. That which is mustahil. Because non-existence, the opposite of it is existence. No other thing. Huh? Tuqabil naqidain, right? Two opposites are there. Existence, non-existence. And you cannot bring them together. As I said, naqidan la yastami'an. You cannot bring two opposites, never gather. Two opposites, brothers, never gather. وَلَا يَرْتَفِعَانِ. And they're not done away with unless one is placed there. Either you have, for instance, harakah or sakin. You either have movement or you're still. You don't have movement and stillness together. One or the other. So it's foolishness for them to have said that. These things cannot be connected together in the sense of gathering together. Existence and non-existence, how can it come together? Movement and being still, how can it come together? How? La yastami'an, they don't come together. They're naqidan, they're two opposites. Huh? Wa kulli uqul bani Adam, all the minds of the children of Adam, they will reject this thing that you're trying to say. They can't accept it. Look how they ran from something. They thought they was running from the fact of making Allah some of His creatures, and they fell into worse than it. They fell into worse than it. It's like one of them said to them when he said, Allah Ta'ala is not above the throne, not above the creatures, nor is He below the creatures, nor is He to the right of the creatures, nor is He to the left of the creatures, nor is He inside the world, nor outside the world. One of the Mashaykh, I think Shaykh Nasser said, you've lost your Lord. You've lost your Lord. Foolishness. Qasam akhir. I'm going to ask about these brothers. Bismillah. Just some points of them. You don't have to memorize this madness. Just to know that it exists out there, those who say this. Nasifu bi nafi will describe them with everything that is in the realm of denying and we won't affirm anything for him. Other words, they mean that you can strip Allah of his qualities, but you can't affirm anything for him. They say, we won't say he's alive. Well, we say he's not dead. We won't say he's all-knowing, but we say he's not ignorant. Or hakadha. Huh? Qalu, they say, because were we to affirm for him something, then we'll be making him similar to that which exists. Because everything, according to them, that exists is similar. And that's a foolish statement too, right? So therefore, you don't affirm for Allah anything, but denying for huwa adam, it's non-existent. Ma'ana mawjud fi kitab sunnah fi zat Allah min isba' akthar min nafi bi kathir. Even though in the book of Allah tabarak ta'ala and the sunnah, you find Allah ta'ala affirming more than he denies. Qila lahum, is said to them, in Allah qala nafsihi sami'un basir. What you say about the fact that Allah says in Quran that he's all hearing, all seeing? They say, هذا من باب إضافات. Idafat. Something connected to something. It means that it was connected to him hearing, not that he hears. ولكن لأن له مخلوق يسمع, but he has some creatures that hear. هو من باب إضافات, like you say Baytullah, the house of Allah. Right? That is tashri. He's saying the house of Allah in the sense that he has honored this house and so on and so forth. So they say some Allah, hearing of Allah is just like that. You see this foolishness. Hearing of Allah is just like that. Idafat. Laysa lahu sam, he doesn't have any hearing. Lakin lahu masmu', but he can, there is something, he doesn't hear himself, but there's something that can be heard. Then someone came and said, all of these said, we will affirm for Allah names, but we won't affirm for him qualities. And these are the Mu'tazila, those real intelligent guys from before. Remember we mentioned them before? They say we affirm for Allah names. Allah is all hearing, Allah is all seeing, Allah is all powerful, Allah is all knowledgeable, Allah is all wise, but he's all powerful without power. He's all hearing without having hearing. He's all seeing without being able to see. He's all knowing without having knowledge. He's all wise without having wisdom. He's all knowing without having knowledge. The name's Alim bila ilm. They affirm the name, not the quality. It's foolishness. But we can understand the foolishness so we can avoid it. وَقَسْمُ الرَّابِعِ, lastly, and they are the Ash'ari that we talked about, who don't have anything to do with Abu Hassan Ash'ari, but are really the followers of that man called Kullab, so the Kullabiyya, because Abu Hassan Ash'ari left this belief. And you should know that the Ash'ari Aqidah is taught all over the globe. And many of those universities consider themselves outside of the Haramain to be Islamic, outside of Mecca and Medina, and Najd in that area, to be places that are teaching Islamic belief are generally on the Ash'ari Aqidah. From Al-Azhar to the one in Tunis, to the one in Sudan, to the one in Pakistan, all those very classy, highly titled and known universities, they teach the Ash'ari Aqidah. It is that which is taught in most of the schools. Most of the schools teach the Ash'ari Aqidah, and this Aqidah Mubtadi'ah, innovative belief. Not the belief of Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, or Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, or Umar ibn Khattab, or Uthman ibn Affan, or Ali ibn Talib, or Sa'd ibn Waqqas, Khalid ibn Walid. You got to stop me. Not the belief of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. Not the belief that Allah Ta'ala sent down from the heavens. It's a belief that is an innovative belief to such a degree that the man who used to be connected to it denied it, rejected, declared his innocence of it, and wrote refutations of it. Na'am. They say, what do they say? We affirm for Allah real names. And we give him qualities. Listen to that. Give him qualities. Ya subhanallah. Qualities that our intellect can deal with. And we deny the rest. We say that he has 7 qualities only. The rest of them we deny either by distorting them until they fit our intelligence,
or we reject them totally. And actually what he means, he said they don't reject it, they don't do a takdheeb, they don't reject it totally, but they make distortion of it. Because if they were to reject it totally, then they know that would be kufr. So they don't do that. They say the hand of Allah means the power of Allah. Right? Like this. It's more what? Rather than say, I don't believe in the hand of Allah. No. That'd be kufr. They say, I believe hand here means power. Right? And in this way, it's called tahrif, which we'll take further, inshallah ta'ala, when the Shaykh brings it. So, they call it, they took the name tahrif. You'll find Ahlul Bidah love to do this one thing. They love to take something that is filthy, that is sick, that is outrageous, and give it a beautiful name. And with this beautiful name, this is how they're able to spread it upon the hearts and the minds of the general people. So rather than say tahrif, which means to distort, which Imam Shanqiti in his book called La'ab, playing, because that's what it is, playing with the book of Allah, playing with the sunnah, playing with the qualities of Allah Ta'ala. Rather than call it playing and distortion, they call it what? Ta'weel. Because the Muslims are generally have a nice understanding of the word ta'weel, because it usually refers to tafsir, explanation of something. So they say, okay, the hand of Allah, okay, brother, the explanation of this, brother. Right? Let me give you the ta'weel of that. Right? Let me break down the ta'weel for you. You don't understand this. Let me help you with this. Right? Or as Yusuf Ali says, this is allegorical. This is allegorical. This is not what is meant. This is allegorical. Huh? Akhi, you don't study allegory? You don't know what allegorical is? Look it up. This is allegorical. Huh? You can't be taking it like you taking it. This is allegorical. They say, ta'weel, it's ta'weel. The 7 qualities that they approve, lahu hayatu, he has living, wa kalamu, speech, wal basar, sight, sam'un, hearing, iradatun, want, wa ilmun, knowledge, wa qtadar, power. These are the 7 that they affirm. Huh? We affirm these qualities, they say, because the mind can affirm it. Because it makes sense to the what? The intelligence and the reason. Whereas the rest of the qualities, the intelligence does not serve as evidence for it. So we only affirm that which our intelligence can be evidence for, and our intelligence can approve. And we deny anything that is not in accordance with our intelligence. Ha'ula'i, these people with this sick belief, huma asha'ira, they're the Ash'aris. Al-Asha'ira, which the vast majority of many Muslims are up on, because this is what they were spoon-fed in elementary, and junior high, and high school, and college. This was the Aqidah they were taught. This is Aqidah that when they opened their tafsir they found. This is Aqidah when they read their books of belief they found. They studied the books like Jawharat al-Tawheed, the Jewel of Tawheed, and they had this type of belief in it. And they thought they were upon something, but they were upon bid'ah and innovation in the wrong belief. فَهَذِهِ أَقْسَامٌ. And these Asha'ira amanu bi-ba'd wa ankaru ba'd. They believed in some and they denied some. It's like the ayah in the surah what Allah says about the Yahud. Are you going to believe in some of the book and reject some of it? You're going to believe in some of the book and disbelieve in the rest? This is them. فَهَذِهِ أَقْسَامٌ تَعْتِيلٌ. This is dealing with everybody who denies the qualities of Allah Ta'ala, who denies His names and denies His qualities, or deny His qualities and affirm His names. Whoever plays in the area of the names and qualities of Allah Ta'ala, this is them. All that came from the bid'ah of who? Jahm bin Safwan. And as the Prophet ﷺ said, and let it never be forgotten, that he who initiates Islam a good sunnah, will have the reward of that and the reward of whoever acts upon it. And he who initiates Islam a what? Bad sunnah. Alright? Sunnah to say a bad way for the people, a bad belief for the people, a bad practice for the people, then he will have that crime upon him and the crime of whoever follows follows him upon that all the way to the day of judgment. So Jahm will be called account for his sick beliefs. And Allah will give him what he deserves. Give him what he deserves. And that Jahmi today in 2003 will also be upon Jahm's shoulder. Because he started this madness. He says, in closing, if you read the books of these people and you gather all their statements, you would have seen that which will astonish you. You would say, how can the mind think this? Especially a believer. How can a believer say these words? وَلَكِنْ مَنْ لَمْ يَجْعَلْ اللَّهُ لَهُ نُورًا. But who Allah God does not grant for him light. فَمَا لَهُ مِن نُور. He will have no light. الَّذِي أَعْمَى اللَّهُ وَسِيرَتَهُ. The one who Allah blinded his sight. The one who Allah blinded his clarity. It's just like the one who Allah blinded his eyes. Listen to that, it's heavy. The one who Allah blinded his basiratuhu, his clarity, his understanding on issues. It's just like the one who Allah blinded his eyes. فَكَمَا أَنَا الْأَعْمَى الْبَصَرِ. Just like the blind person who has no eyesight, if he was to stand in front of the sun, he would not see it. The sun, the sight of the sun, looking at the sun, what would that do to the eyes? Yet the blind person will not what? See it. And so therefore the one who Allah has blinded his understanding, has blinded his clarity, has blinded his basira. If he was to stand in front of all the lights of the truth, all the brilliance of the truth, all the radiance of the truth, mara'aha, he won't see it. He won't see it. وَإِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. وَلِهَذَا, because of this, يَنْبَغِي لَنَا دَائِمًا, it is upon us always, أَنْ نَسْأَلَ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى فِي بَعْدِ عَلَى الْأَمْرِ, to ask Allah to make us firm upon this matter. To ask Allah to make us firm on the matter. Ask Allah, akhi. Man ant. What makes you different than Maghrawi? What makes you different than Abu Hassan al-Ma'rabi? What makes you different than Abdul Rahman al-Khaliq? What makes you different than Abu Muslimah? What makes you different than Abu Usama? What makes you different than Jamaluddin Zarabozo? What makes you different than Ali Tamimi? What makes you different than them? Ask Allah Ta'ala for thibat. وَلَا يُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَانَا. And he won't cause our heart to deviate after he has guided us. لِنَا أَمْرَ خَطِيرٌ. Because the matter is dangerous. لِنَا أَمْرَ خَطِيرٌ. The matter is dangerous. وَالشَّيْطَانِ يَدْخُلُ عَلَى ابْنِ آدَمَ مِنْ كُلِّهِ. And Shaitan enters upon the son of Adam from every direction. مِنْ كُلِّ وَجْهٍ. From every aspect. And he gives him doubts in his belief. And he gives him doubt in his deed. And he gives him doubt in the book of Allah. And he gives him doubt in the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. فَهَذِهِ فِي حَقِيقَةِ الْبِدْعَةِ. This is reality innovation that is spread upon the Ummah of Islam. That is spread upon the Ummah of Islam. But let it be known. And let it never be forgotten. And don't have no doubt about the issue. That there is no bid'ah that anyone has innovated. Except that Allah Ta'ala, out of his mercy, out of his love, out of his justice, he has brought about those people to knock down that falsehood and that battle and that innovation. وَهَذَا is what Allah says. This is the dalil of this matter. إِنَّ نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا ذِكْرًا. Very we have revealed the reminder. وَإِنَّ لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. And we will guard it from corruption. And we will guard it from corruption. هذا من حفظ الله لهذا الذكر. How does Allah preserve this dhikr? It is that he prepares individuals, prepare writers, prepare scholars to knock down those innovations. And this is also from the wisdom of Allah Ta'ala, that Allah Ta'ala made Muhammad the last of the messengers. And he made his risala, his message, labut, it must تَبْقَى فِي الْأَرْضِ, stay upon the earth. For if it did not stay upon the earth, then the people would have an excuse in front of Allah. And since the Risala, the message must stay upon the earth, then Allah Ta'ala, from His wisdom, must have those who deal with every bid'ah or every innovation, who expose it, who show it. And this is the reality of the matter. احرصوا على العلم. Be concerned about knowledge, seeking knowledge. Seeking knowledge from Kitab and from Sunnah. This is some of what we wanted to say on this night. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد. If there's any questions, inshallah ta'ala, we'll take them bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. I don't think I have to wear this any longer. They never called in. Na'am. Yeah. You're saying that one describing a quality of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and like Allah Ta'ala put His foot upon the hellfire and would say enough, enough. And someone describes that and then places his foot out. And in this matter, this tashbih. We'll come across a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Allah, the Prophet ﷺ said, verily Allah Ta'ala is Sami'un Basirun. He did like this. He put his thumb upon his ear, or the one finger upon the ear and the finger that followed it, or the finger that followed the thumb, upon the eye. To show that realistically, it is eye and is hearing. Not that realistically it is the eye of the creatures, or the hearing of the creatures, but it is actually an eye in the hearing. Right? So if a person does it based upon that and he has no tashbih in his heart, then there's no problem with that. Because there's a group of Ash'ari and others who say that he who points to the sky and says Allah is above is a kafir. Well, in this respect, they will be declaring the Prophet ﷺ as kafir. But the Prophet ﷺ said on Hajjatul Wada, after he explains to the people, hal balagtu, have I not given a message? They said, Bala, yes you have. He said, Allahumma fashhud. Oh Allah, you are a witness. And he pointed to the sky when he said Allahumma, and pointed to the one he said fashhud. You are a witness. So, and when the Prophet ﷺ asked the slave girl, where is Allah? She said, Fis sama. And we'll get into that meaning, fil ulu, in His highness, above everything. So there's no problem in that, long as there's no tashbih intended by the individual, because he knows very well, if he's Salafi, that his foot can never be comparable to the foot of Allah Ta'ala. There's no comparison between the two. That the only thing that is in fact shared is the name. This he understands very well. You know what I'm saying? And I think that will answer that question, inshallah. And we'll cover it more so when we come to the hadith, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Na'am. Eish. Indik. And I don't know specifically what you're referring to, but in general, we stated where that belief of Jad ibn Dirham and Jahm bin Safwan came from. It came from the Yahud. It came from the very Yahud who did sorcery, magic upon the Prophet ﷺ. So, we don't have to go far and try to reflect upon what the belief of the Jews is and does it compare. I don't care if they, I don't care what they believe. I'm just saying, we already have within the history of the Aqidah example, firm example of that, firm example of that. It doesn't compare really to what you're saying though, okay? Because the Mu'tazila are saying, and others are saying two opposites. You see what I'm saying? They didn't say, or those particular group of Ahlul Bidah we're talking about, Jahmiyyah and like this, they were doing two opposites. They weren't approving just the nothing. Wujud wal adam, existence and non-existence. Two opposites. But I'm saying it was displayed to you early on in the lecture that this belief of Ja'ad bin Dirham, who, alhamdulillah, the Salafi Amir back in those days Eid al-Adha slaughtered him. He said, O servants of Allah, you go ahead and slaughter the animals that you're going to slaughter. May Allah accept your slaughtering. And I'm going to slaughter Jad ibn Dirham. Because he claimed that Allah did not speak to Musa. And he claimed that Allah did not take Ibrahim as Khalil. And they got to, they stood while he slaughtered his qurbani. His dhabiha was jahad. And as Ibn Qayyim said in his Nuniyya, every muwahid, everyone on Tawheed was pleased with that qurbani. Pleased with that one. That's better than the sheep they took care of the rest of the day. MashaAllah. Aywa. Bus. Na'am. Don't be sad. Ayat Qarni. No, what about it? Put it on tape again, you mean? Yeah, I mean, it's Ayat Qarni is Hizbi. Ma'aruf, no. There's a detailed response against him by Sheikh Faleh Harbi and many others. And why would you want to read his book? Reading his book, not you, but reading, you see, you're sensitive, Brick City brothers, sensitive, man. He didn't think about the fact that I was saying you in a general sense. No, I must have been specific. What if I was like that and said, well, you wasn't going to ask? You don't want to ask it. But ala kulli halin, and don't be sad, will make you sad. How an individual can go from being what was thought of somebody upon the sunnah and go to the deviation of qurbiyya or sururiyya. So, don't be sad. Don't read the book. Burn the book. Do something that will make you happy. Burn the book. Enjoy burning the book. Na'am. Jayid. Khalasna? You got something from there? Akhi, what did I say about them? It's becoming a principle. Huh? Jayid. What was the Arabic word used? Takyif? Like the how? Kayfiyya? Read it again. Kayfiyya. And Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah made it clear that we should not imagine the qualities of Allah Ta'ala. But we will look up, inshallah ta'ala, depending on what translation that they are using. We'll look up what the brother has stated regarding the matter, and because I know there's a couple translations of the book. I know Abu Maryam has done one. And we'll look up what has been said. But in general, no, we should not imagine Allah Ta'ala. We should not imagine Allah, Allah Ta'ala. Ibn Abbas said, I believe it was, that think about the creation of Allah and don't think about the Creator. Reflect upon the creation of Allah and don't reflect upon the Creator. So yeah, imagining in this way is incorrect. I just hope he used the right term when he said taqyif here, because it has more ma'ani than that. But we'll be taking all four of those issues: taqyif, ta'atil, tashbih, and tamthil. We'll be taking it, inshallah ta'ala. It's coming. It's coming, inshallah ta'ala. Na'am. Anything else? Bas. خير إن شاء الله. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد.